Okay, so you've got Legacy of the Foefire here. And what people really need to understand about Thief is that a Thief's role on Legacy of the Foefire is to empower his teammates. A lot of people think Thief is a really selfish position because you're just all about doing the high burst DPS and getting into fights. But really, it's about how can you tip team fights into your teammates' favor and how can you pressure uncapped and undefended points. So right now, I'm going to preload Bassy Venom here just to get that buff on me, and then I'm going to head to Farpoint. I'm expecting to find the enemy team's Bunker Guardian on Farpoint. So I'm just really going to try to delay him while we capture the waterfall to get us an early point advantage. But then I see that the enemy team actually sent their Ranger. It should be a relatively easy fight from here. So I'm just going to steal up to the Ranger who has a longbow equipped, and then I'm going to continue to use Shadow Shot to stay in close quarters and put pressure on the Ranger. And then as soon as I get him into Panic Strike here, I know I'm going to kill him with the Heart Seeker. So I get him down. Forget to put down my blind field because I'm not really sure why. I put down the blind field there though, managed to get the stomp, and I'm going to get an actually really, really early far cap, which I definitely didn't expect to do, while we also cap the waterfall. So I'm going to sit here and cap far because I know that we're about to cap waterfall and that at least one of the enemy teammates is fighting off point with one of my teammates so that the enemy team can only have as many as 3 people on mid. So I know that we're going to be able to hold out in that team fight long enough for me to cap the point and then run to mid and make an impact in this team fight. But as I get to mid, my teammates have actually already done a really good job of cleaning up the fight. There's really only the Bunker Guardian left. He's about the last person you want to engage on. But given that there's really nobody else to fight, I'm just going to engage in the Bunker Guardian, try to burst him down as fast as possible. As soon as I notice that he's down, I'm going to put down a blind field so that my other teammates can stomp him. And then I'm going to move back towards far with one of my teammates. I'm going to fail the shadow shot there, which is a little embarrassing. But the thing about Thief to understand is you have to know when you've made enough of an impact on a fight that you can leave and start to put pressure somewhere else. So I knew right then that all I needed to do is put the blind field down and then continue to move on to another point. So here we've got a Mesmer down and an enemy Necromancer as well. So it's a 2v2 on far. The Mesmer is definitely the more threatening individual, at least in the short term, and we also have already put some damage into them as well. My teammate's going to get mowed here, but I'm going to continue to follow the Mesmer to try to get him down. I'm going to fight up point, which isn't necessarily always the best idea. Probably what I should have done is switched into short bow and continue to pressure the Mesmer from far away while I stayed on point. But it looks like my teammate and the Necromancer have decided to fight off point, so I'm going to try to pressure the Mesmer on. I'm going to put down Shadow Refuge to get him to pop his disappearance down skill a little bit earlier, and then all I'm going to do is stand here, stomp, and then think better of it and actually just DPS him down so that I can jump out of the Shadow Refuge stealth and start decapping as soon as the Mesmer dies. I noticed that my teammate has gone down here, so I'm going to complete the decap and then go and try to save him by killing the Necro here. And I actually do manage to get this Necro down, and this would have been a completely fine play except that the Red Team Ranger shows up. And I don't really fancy myself in too much of a 2v1 as my teammate's about to die. So I just get on, cap as much as I can at that point. And then all I'm going to do is rotate mid because I know that the enemy team has 2 people on far. So that at worst, it's going to be a 3v3 in mid. And that's a fight that I think I can tip the balance in, particularly when they don't have their AoE Necro. But then I get to mid. My teammates have already done a super good job of cleaning up the mid fight. So I'm just going to sit on point with the Mesmer because I think that he is going to roam. He didn't actually end up roaming, which is completely fine because we're going to get pressure from far point pretty soon anyway. And it also uh, looks like that I get hit with a taunt here, which is completely fine because I have the misform from the vampirism rune. So I'm just going to get out of sight and throw down my shadow refuge. And then I'm going to switch into shortbow while I watch the fight. I know that I'm pretty low on health, so jumping in wouldn't actually do anybody any good. So I'm just going to pressure the downstates with poison fields as well as my shortbow and continue to watch the fight go down here. So we get the Necro down in Moa form, and at this point, I think the fight is basically over. So I actually turn to put pressure on home point. There's 2 people here. There's going to be an engineer, and then there's going to be another one. Looks like a Mesmer on our home point. But as soon as I realize that I can't actually outfight them, I'm just gonna shadow step back and then roll off and try to pressure this mid fight. But immediately I notice that far point is completely unprotected. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump up to far point, go and get the full cap or the decap. I don't remember exactly which one because this is the only source of red team points at this point. So all I'm going to do is get the decap here, see that the Mesmer is coming. I don't really have too much of an appetite for a fight here because I don't have a lot of cooldowns and I just get mowed. So I'm just going to run back mid while the Mesmer caps back far and know that me and my team are going to be in a 5v4 situation. And that's a situation that I think I can influence really well. And I think it's a team fight that we can ultimately win. We ultimately do end up winning it. I'm going to put pressure on the Necromancer because he's the biggest source of AoE damage. And in a team fight, that's the absolute thing that you want to kill first is the biggest source of AoE damage. So I'm going to just keep putting pressure on him because he's low health and has no Death Shroud. I'm going to get the Shadow Step Stomp just to ensure that I do get the stomp because it's really important that Necromancer die in the team fight. We're going to get the Guardian down. I'm going to get the Stomp down because a couple of my teammates are already moving towards far. And that's one of the other really important things, too, is it's really important to understand what your teammates are doing. So Thieves are definitely supposed to continue moving around the battlefield as much as possible, rotate to undefended and uncapped points. But if your teammates are also doing that, then sometimes it's better. Like here, for instance, I know that my teammate is going to rotate to home. It's something that I want to do, too. I'd rather my teammates stand on home, or stand on mid, but I'm going to stand on mid because my teammate is rotating so that we don't leave it undefended. Here, I'm just going to try to fear the Necromancer out of the circle long enough for me to cap it, but it's not really going to end up working out, which is totally fine because really all you have to do is stall until we can get a good team fight going, and then I can either make a ninja cap on their far or influence the team fight. Now here I make sort of a bad decision. So I know that we're supposed to be going for the Necromancer here. Necro is definitely the priority target over the Guardian. But I end up using a bunch of my cooldowns and then jumping back into the fight for some reason, which you'll see here. So I'm trying to pressure the Necro out of Death Drop because he's already pretty relatively low health. And I know that I can headshot his healing skill. So I'm gonna jump down into Shadow Refuge. And then for whatever reason, he's gonna jump into Plague Form. And here, what I probably should do ultimately is actually just back out of the fight, switch into shortbow and plink them with poison fields and cluster bombs, and really just try to influence the fight that way. But instead, I jump back into the plague form, really with no cooldowns and no condi condition or no condi clear. End up going down because of my own boneheaded mistake. Try to port up to make sure that the necromancer can't stop me. And then my teammates get off a great stomp for the rally. So definitely credit goes to them for keeping me in that fight. After that, we have four people on the midpoint, so it's going to be really easy to get this bunker guardian down. But it's really important to always pressure a bunker guardian, even if you already have like five teammates on the point, and the bunker guardian is perhaps the only teammate there because bunker guardians have a lot of blocks and a lot of heals. So it's really, really important to be able to pressure them down super fast so that you can move on and your teammates can get the stomp and actually start capping the point. So here I'm going to move to home point because we don't have a cap. So I'm going to go with one of my teammates and just try to pressure this engineer off point. But what ends up happening here is that I get pretty low, and I notice that one of my teammates is coming from base to help here. So we have three people on home, which is actually like far too many. So what I end up doing is just leaving my teammates to finish off the relatively low engineer, and then I'm going to move mid to try to influence the fight there. Okay, so here I noticed that the fight is almost over. The enemy ranger is here, but fairly low, so I'm just gonna mope him out of stealth with my short bow. And then the guardian shows up, and I know that I'm not gonna get the stomp here because I'm already a little late on trying to get it. So I'm just gonna back out, heal up, and try to burst the ranger here again. The ranger is gonna be the priority target over the guardian because he has more DPS potential. So here I get the ranger pretty low. I'm gonna shadow step out to drop some aggro and heal up a little bit. I'm gonna withdraw, but withdraw back into the circle and into the chaos field of my teammate. And then I'm just going to burst the ranger down, swap to short bow so that I can pressure him from far away because I'm a little low right now. I'm going to go into the mist form of my vamp runes and then try to get as far away as possible because I know even if the ranger didn't PP me there that I was going to go down to bleed. So I'm just going to try to get as far away from the fight as possible. I noticed that my teammates have gotten the ranger down again. They get a good stomp on him and I end up rallying from that. So now we're just going to try to quickly burst down the Guardian to get him sort of out of the team fight that's coming, but we don't manage to do it, and red team shows up, and the team fight's going to develop a little more here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Mesmer here, and notice that the Mesmer is going to try to jump up to the ledge to try to free cast. So all I'm going to do is follow that Mesmer up there and try to pressure him off the ledge so that he doesn't get off a bunch of free damage. I stick around the portal because I figure he might jump back through the portal if I leave, so you can continue to free cast, but then I notice that the enemy has an engineer sitting on our home point. So I'm going to jump onto the home point. And one of the interesting things about this fight is that I can't actually stealth in the fight because then the engineer will cap the point. So I have to fight and stall the engineer for as long as possible without one of my greatest tools next to me. And it actually creates a fairly interesting fight. The engineer actually jumps off the point there for a second, which gives me a little bit of breathing room. And then I end up getting some reinforcements from one of my teammates from one of my elementalist teammates. So at this point, the fight goes basically in our favor. My teammate chases the engineer off point to try to kill him. I end up staying on point because I want to try to get the cap for our teammates. But I noticed the guardian has shown up, and I noticed that I am pretty that I have relatively low cooldowns and end up getting bursted down here because I can't kite off of the point correctly. So I know at this point what I have to try to do is stall because the engineer is really low. So we get the engineer down. I end up stalling long enough here by stealthing the guardian stomp, and then my teammate gets quickness and is able to stomp the engineer relatively quickly and rally me. So it was really really good testament to him, really good play from him. I wouldn't still be alive if he didn't make that play in the correct way. So here I'm going to try to reset the fight a little bit. I'm just going to jump off point to Shadow Refuge so I don't mess up my teammate or mess up the cap for us in any way. If I Shadow Refuge on the point, there's a chance that we both get stealth and the red team makes progress towards the cap, which wouldn't be so great. And all I'm going to do is sit here and try to burst down the Guardian. The reason I'm doing that is because I looked towards mid and noticed that we had a downed enemy at mid, so I know the team fight is going relatively well for us, so that I don't have to immediately jump off point to try to help there. But afterwards, and after I realized we're not going to burst down that Guardian, I do jump towards the mid team fight to try to influence here. And I noticed that the Ranger is free casting here a little bit. All I do is end up jumping on him, bursting him down to make sure that I relieve some DPS pressure for my teammates. He ends up getting mowed, which is a really nice move for my teammate. And then all I'm gonna do is get a shadow step stomp here so that he can't interrupt me, and then I can rally the teammate right next to him. And that's how we end up winning that fight. The engineer comes here as well, ends up going down relatively quickly as well, and we end up getting mid. And here you'll notice that I stay on point. The reason that I stay on point is because my teammates have been very akin to roaming this match. And so even though I'm really supposed to be the roamer because I'm the thief, if my teammates are the ones that really want to roam, then I'll stay and cap the point no problem and then continue to move on. I notice as I'm watching the map that we have a down enemy, but also I have a down teammate on far. So I know that they're in a downstate fight on far, and I know that I can move to this downstate fight relatively easily, kill the downstate enemy, rally my teammate, and continue to put pressure on far, which means that our opponents have to send another person to far, which means that they're not sending anybody to mid or home to help pressure that, and that my teammates will have at least a 3v3 in mid. So they send the Ranger. I know that I can take on the Ranger relatively easily by myself, and that I have a Mesmer teammate here to help me do it. So I just stay to kill the Ranger fairly quickly. I know it's going to be a pretty contracted fight. It's not going to last very long. So we do end up getting him down relatively fast, if not a little bit sloppily. And then I end up trying to stomp the Ranger. I'm not really sure why, but ultimately I should just let the Mesmer try to stomp him. Instead, I should have never initiated that stomp without putting my blind field down. But I suppose I just sort of made a play error there. And then here I noticed that at this point we're pretty far ahead in points. We've played the points really well, and we've made sure that our opponents haven't gotten any free caps or any free points off of those caps. So I'm going to notice right here that it's going to say our base is under attack, and I understand at this point that all we need to do is defend one open point for us to win. So we have home right now, which means that we're ticking for enough points for us to win, and that the only way our opponents are ever going to mount a comeback is by killing our Lord. So I jump off the mid fight immediately. Even if we lose that team fight, as long as we can continue to keep at least home cap, we should be completely fine. So all I do is jump towards our base, kill the engineer that's trying to get in. It ended up only being one of them. I wasn't quite sure how many of them were on the base. End up stomping him here, even though I stole a little bit too early. And then after that, it's just, sort of all over but the crying. And so really, I hope what this video has shown you is that that a thief can influence a game of conquest not by flashy plays or winning fights necessarily, but by paying attention to the map, understanding teammates classes, teammates builds, and teammates playstyles, and using smart map movements and working with teammates correctly to win the game. You don't have to win every fight. You don't have to make a lot of flashy plays. You just have to be cognizant of what's going on in the map and make sure that you're moving effectively. So really hope you guys like this video. If you do, leave me a like, leave me a comment, and definitely subscribe for more. Thanks.